Hi, I don't know how to start this video. I think that's the hardest part is knowing where to start. Um, my name is Whitney Baldwin, and I was diagnosed with multiple sclerosis MS, January 3rd of 2022. Um, it was out of nowhere. My left eye was hurting. Basically, whenever I tried to like look left and right or up and down, it would hurt really bad. And so I went and saw my primary doctor, and he's like, "Oh, it's weird. Maybe we should try this medicine." I don't even remember what the medicine was. And after about 4 or 5 days, my dad actually was like, I was talking to him on the phone, and I was like, "It's so weird. I don't know." And he's like, "You should go to an eye doctor." And I was like, "Oh, that's probably smart. I should go to an eye doctor." And so I got in actually with my eye doctor that day, and they saw me, and she said, "I need you to go to the specialist." And at the time, I was doing like meals for people that were like food prep meals. So like I think it was a Tuesday, and on a Tuesday, like that's like I got to get my stuff together and I got to deliver, 100 meals today. So sorry. And so I was like, okay, well I'll schedule that. And she said, no, you need to go today to Scottsbluff. And so I live in a small town in Nebraska, and Scottsbluff's about an hour away. And I was like, well, let's. And she's like, no, you got to go today. And so at that point, I was worried. I homeschool my daughter. And so I said, well, can we do it after my husband gets off work? And so they got me the last one of the day so that could work. And I told my husband, I was like, I don't want Kaya to be there because Kaya's my daughter. I don't want Kaya to be there because I don't know that's weird that they're sending me here. And so he stayed home, and the specialist did a bunch of stuff, and he was like, I think that the best idea is for you to go to the emergency room and do an MRI. And at that point, they had told me, like, this is what we think it might be, but we can't quite tell in the optical. And so I'm going to call the ER basically and tell them what's going on. So I went over to the ER, told my husband what was going on, and he's like, I'm coming. And I was like, no, you're not. Like, when you have, you know, we have very many friends that are like family here, very close. But at that point, I wasn't very good at asking for help. MS has helped me with that. But I didn't want him to leave my daughter. I didn't want her to be there either. Who knows what was going to happen? So we went and got me in there, and they did an MRI. And I happened to know the charge nurse that was down there that day as a friend of mine's daughter. And we were talking and doing things, and then waiting for the MRI stuff to come back. And then everything got really quiet, and you could tell that the nurses were kind of avoiding me. And they wheeled in a video conference with a doctor from Denver, and because we're about 3.5, 4 hours from Denver. And she told me it was multiple sclerosis. They could see the lesions in my brain. And basically, they were going to admit me, and they wanted to do the spinal tap. It's where they check for the bands. I don't know what the technical term is for them. So at that point, I didn't even get an epidural with my daughter because I was too scared of that, because I had seen my sister get it whenever I was in the room for her birth, and I was like, oh no, that ain't happening to me. Like it may have helped, but that's a big needle. That ain't happening to me. And so, yeah, so called my husband, told him what was going on. He was like, I'm coming. And I'm like, no, you're not. Like, at this point, it's late. And I'm like, they're just admitting me. It's fine. So they admitted me because the way to help with with MS flares is to administer high dose steroids through an IV. So me at that point, who barely took Tylenol, like I hated taking anything when something happened. They put me on 3 days, 1,000 milligrams a day of steroids, and I was a pill. I think my husband told my daughter the second day that came in, he's like, "Don't talk. Like, don't say any. If she talks to you, say something. Be kind, but that's it. Like, don't say anything because those steroids were rough." Um, so, anyways, that's how I was diagnosed. I didn't see much movement for the first year or so. I actually had a really hard time. Like, I was diagnosed in the hospital, but after that, it was a hard time of getting anybody to really like put me on any medicine to help me stop progressing because it was so early, and also because my mom has lupus. And so a lot of the doctors were like, well, maybe it's not MS, maybe it's lupus because your mom has MS. And so I actually ended up seeing about 5 different rheumatologists who all said the same thing, that it wasn't, but I had a neurologist that just didn't want to give it up. And I finally saw a rheumatologist in Rapid City who said to me, "You need to refer yourself to Mayo." And I didn't even know that that was a thing, that I could refer myself to Mayo Clinic. I didn't really know. My primary doctor was amazing. Um, he was just amazing in my symptoms that I had going on. I have always had what I call the fireworks underneath my face. It feels like somebody has like a wire that has like a hot wire that you accidentally touch. Like that happens in my face, my left side, and my hands and stuff. And so he helped me get on a medicine to help with that. But as far as like the, actual MS medicine to help you stop advancing, or that's the goal of the medicine, um, couldn't couldn't figure all that out. So he actually helped me self-refer to Mayo, showed me how to do it, did all that, and I got accepted. And so I went to Mayo January of 2023. I was supposed to be there for only a week. I keep looking to the side because my notes are over there, making sure I talk about everything. Um, 2023 of January. I was supposed to be there for a week. My parents came with me. I ended up staying a few extra days, and they did diagnose, say yes, it is MS. They actually, did did all that, and they said we've caught it really early, and so they were like, we're going to put you on this low dose. Like, we really think it'll be enough. And I do believe they fully believe that. And I fully believe that as well. And so I came home in January of 23, and I was on Tectavera, which is just a pill that you take twice a day. Not very invasive, but I was also at that point taking 1,800 milligrams of gabapentin a day to help me just not feel all that nerve pain that was in my face and in different areas. The fatigue was the biggest part. I owned my own bakery, and basically it was like I was in bed by 4 o'clock and I would nap in between that because it was just, the fatigue was a lot. So my primary doctor helped me get on something that would help me with the fatigue. Um, and so it was just business as usual. I'd have random things that would feel different, or, my fatigue would be worse, but I was just like, this is what God gave me. And not gave me, but this is what I have. And I'm going to glorify God through all of this, anyways. And there's a purpose in this, and there's, a purpose in what I'm going through. And so that was life. And then September of last year, I started having these chest pains that would go down my arm and then down my leg. And so obviously the first thing that they would say is, we got to check for heart attack, like, because, obviously that's what you have to do. And so it would get really bad to where I couldn't walk, and it was just these horrible pains. And so saw my primary, can't tell you how many, he would call, I would call, and he'd be like, you have to go to the ER. Like we know that it's not a heart attack because we've done these, but I don't, we have to go to the ER just in case. So I'd get into the ER and they, nothing, they're doing the right thing. They rip everything off and start putting the things on me. And I'd be like, I know it's not a heart attack, but they couldn't, no idea. And then one day, it was October, I was in my primary's office and I just broke down and I was like, it hurts so bad and it's random and I don't know what to do. And he was like, that's it. We're like, you're going to stay overnight tonight. We've got to figure out what's going on. It won't stop. And so put me in the they put me in overnight and they basically tried to give me like morphine to make it feel better. And I've never had a reaction to morphine, like a bad reaction. It's always been really good and helpful, obviously. But it was horrible. Like I was like, it hurts worse. I'm vomiting. It was horrible. And what they ended up figuring out is that I had a new lesion on C7 back here. And it was basically causing spasms on this left side. And so started a medicine called baclofen, which is good, to stop the spasm, the nerve spasms. I'm on the highest dose that you can be on baclofen. I still can feel sometimes those, spasms, but that's something that if I went off of that, I'd feel all the time. So, um, February of 25, I went back to Mayo um, because after I got out in October, I called my neurologist here and said, hey, I need to get in. And they said, oh, we can get you in March. And I said, no, like this is active, like I need to figure this out. And it was basically, we'll see you in March. And so I called Mayo and they said, you're coming back up. So I went back up in February and they said, we're going to change your medicine. You need to go on Ocrevus. And so Ocrevus, if you don't know, is one that goes in like an IV. It's an immunosuppressant. It's kind of the big one for MS that a lot of people are on. And he also said, they make you walk every time you go to a neurologist for MS. Like they make you walk and they do all these things. And he was like, you need to go to a physical, like medicine doctor, like physical therapy doctor. And I said, no, I'm fine. Because that's what I always say. Right? No, that's not for me. I'm good. I have low level MS. I don't have the big MS, And by the end of it, he was like, you need to go to it. I'm also in a study for Mayo. Like anytime I think, I'm like, yeah, sure, I'll do your research study if it helps somebody else or it could help me. But I think more of next generations of, the only reason they've gotten as far as they can on the research so far is, or, on the medicine so far as the research that's been done. And I asked her, I said, can you tell me the difference? And it was pretty big. Cognitive was really big, of forgetting words and forgetting things like that. Uh, Bigger than I wanted it to be. Same thing with walking. And so from beginning of February to mid-March, I was going back to Mayo in Minnesota every 2 weeks to do something. And when I went back to get some things done, I saw the physical medicine person as well, and they said I needed to be walking with a cane sometimes just to help. And that was a blow. I'm 37 years old. My daughter's 13. Like this isn't supposed to be what I'm doing. But I did. I got a cane. And I got Ocrevus for the first time. And the thing here is that you're not progressing if you don't have new lesions. And a lot of other places look at it as more the symptoms from October till now. If you know me or have seen me, the cane is my everyday. I try really hard not to use it at the bakery. For some reason, you can see me at the grocery store with it, but you can't see me at the bakery with it. I don't know why in my head that's a thing, but it is. And things have progressed a lot since October. Um, so, my husband turns 50 this year, and for the past 5 years, we've been planning this bucket list trip for him to go to Ireland and Scotland. And we were supposed to go in September for it. But we both know that I wouldn't be able to walk for it because walking with a cane around a grocery store takes it out of me. And I can't imagine being on a cruise ship and going on cobblestone streets and doing all those things. I would most likely be in a wheelchair or a scooter. Um, 3 years ago when this all started, I went down, obviously, the rabbit hole of research, and I've continued to do that. But one of the groups I joined was called HSCT in Mexico, Clinica Ruiz. And I've always looked at it, but I've been like, I'm not, I don't need that. That's not for me. I don't even have a cane. I don't, I just deal with minor things. As things have gotten progressive, as things have progressed, I've obviously done a lot more research in it. HSCT, don't even, I can't say the words, I'm sure, is hemotopotic, yeah, stem cell transplant. Essentially, in my basic words, you go in, you do full chemo, they break down your immune system, get you down to zero basically, and then they give you back your stem cells. They harvest your stem cells, then they give them back to you, and the goal is to trick your body into not thinking you have MS. And obviously that's like my words. That's not, I have all the information. Like I will post everything. I do not mind that at all. But it's 28 days in Mexico. I take one caregiver with me. And then when I get back, it's the aftercare. It's 3 to 6 months of you have a newborn baby that is maybe high risk of getting sick. So 3 to 6 months of starting out slow, not leaving my house, all of that. And then obviously I go through full chemo. They do like 8 days of every 12 hours coming in and giving you a shot to like stimulate your stem cells and all of those things. And I believe it's split between the 28 days, but it's 2 days of 2 rounds of chemo, and then after the stem cell, it's another 2 days of 2 rounds of chemo. They have an 80% success rate of people never having to take the immunotherapy MS drugs again, of stopping it in its tracks. They say we don't cure MS because there is no cure for MS, but if it could stop here, then in 2 years, because I turned 38 this year, in 2 years, when I turn 40 and my daughter turns 16, maybe I'd be able to go on that trip that we've always dreamed of going to Paris and seeing where my mother was born and where we still have family, that maybe we could go on that trip and I could walk. The icing or on top is that some people see regression at where they're at. But if I could just stop it here, I think it's worth the risk. There are some studies and trials going on in America for this. Obviously, they're a lot more expensive, and the trials I don't qualify for because you have to have like an active lesion. And what that means is that like you have to be in the middle of a flare. It has to light up whenever it's on the MRI. I've never had that. I've never had that happen. They've always been able to see the lesions afterwards, but I've never had an active lesion. Um, so after a lot of research, a lot of prayer, a lot of talking with my family, I believe um, that this is a calculated risk, which is worth it. So the reason for this video is not just to tell you my life. That's not my intentions. I'm usually pretty quiet. Everybody knows, like, I don't not tell people that I have MS, but I also don't, I try not to be, everybody carries something. Just because mine is diagnosed as MS and people know about it doesn't mean it's harder than what anybody else is going through. And I've always just been like, I want to show the joy that God has given me and that I have in Him no matter what I'm going through. So this is hard for me to even put it out there and to even ask, but this obviously isn't covered by insurance. I'm going to Mexico, Puebla, Mexico, to get this done. The treatment itself is $57,500. That includes an apartment for my caregiver and I to live in. During that time, it's connected to the clinic. It's has nurses on staff all the time, food's included, you know, all of that. It's all included. And then there's $1,000 is what we're estimating in flights to go back and forth. And then the aftercare medicine that I would take for 6 months afterwards in pesos is $12,187 pesos and 50 cents, I guess the way, which comes to right now in the translation $626.71. So at first I thought that was in dollars and I was like, man, $12,000 in the aftercare, but it's still probably cheaper there. Then I realized it was in pesos. So the total that we need to come up with is $59,126.70 by my estimate. Obviously, we plan on putting in ourselves. We canceled a trip and that money will go there. Everything that comes from the bakery at this point on my side will go there, you know, from what I sell. My husband basically said, I'm going to live at BN for a while to make this happen. It's really amazing. Just, it's scary. This is scary. Not because I don't trust the process, because I'm not scared about that part. But I'm leaving my family for that long. And then I'm coming back and I'm not, if you know me, you know I can't sit still. I don't know how I'm going to do it, but I know that I will. But I know that this is what God is, what I'm supposed to do. And I really feel good about the clinic, and I've spoken to people that have been there. I've spoken to them on live chat before, like with actual video, you know, because, you know, my sister automatically was like, are you sure it's not a scam? You know, but I pulled this up actually because I wanted to make sure that I said it on there. They have the largest patient volume in autoimmune disease HSCT treatment center in the world. They have performed more than 2,500 HSCT procedures during more than 20 years. And so positive results have been achieved in over 80% of patients, which includes both relapsing and progressive patients. So I have relapsing remitting MS, and the progressive is the next stage, obviously, and they've seen the best results with relapsing remitting. So all this to say, you're going to see lots of things coming up, fundraisers of some kinds. I don't know, that's my plan. is to try and make this happen. I accepted a date of September 29th. I pray I can meet that date. It's a lofty goal. I don't know. But if not, it can be pushed back. But I told my husband, we talked about that January might be, how are we going to fit this into our lives? Because that's the thing. You got to fit everything into your life that you have. And I told him, I said, the more we wait, though, who knows in January what it'll be, because it just keeps taking things from me. I don't want it to take any more. So I'm gonna try and get there as fast as I can. So the goal is to raise basically $60,000 before I can go in September, hopefully. So I'm gonna put together a page. We'll probably put a GoFundMe out. I'll get together. We're working on a bank account that'll be separate. I'll have a accountant that'll take care of that one, and we'll put a QR code up for it. It's just and then be able to update like how much has come in, and you can see exactly where money is going and all of that jazz. But just know this is what I'm doing and why I'm doing it. And I'll make sure on the page we have all kinds of information. And please, if you have questions, I'll tell you everything I can, everything I know, everything, where every penny is going to go. I want to do this so I can be there with my family. And I can be, what I'm supposed to be walking, hopefully. So, thank you guys. I plan on doing more videos and showing you where things are at, and even videos while I'm there. I'd like to do some daily videos of all of that. So I hope you'll follow my journey and maybe help out if you can. If you can't help out financially, prayers for the situation, prayers for my family, just prayers for the others that are going through the same thing. Can't tell you how many people I know with autoimmune diseases. Just prayer. Thank you guys. Love you all.